We have a lovely set of 7 panelists, moms and daughters, who have the moms have definitely influenced the daughters into the field of education. So I would like tonight to introduce our moderator, Jill Nadeau. Many of you know her as the past or the present president of AAUW. And Jill has extensive um, experience. We're so lucky to be able to have her as our moderator. Extensive experience at Wisconsin Public Radio as the executive producer and fill-in host at the Larry Mealer Show. So with that, I will turn it over to Jill and welcome.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, spin that one down. So we are short on microphones as usual. So ladies, we appreciate you sending it on down the line. And I'll try to go back and forth this way so you don't have to this isn't a debate, so we don't have to be super fair about who gets what first. So thank you all for being here. And I know this is a small group and we probably could do this without the microphones, but we are taping this. And so other people can watch it too, which is very exciting. So thank you to Watertown TV. We are very lucky to have them in our community. So we're here to talk about teaching. Why does anybody want to teach these days? And so we're going to talk with all of these wonderful women about their why they're doing it and all that good stuff. So I'm going to first ask you all to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your teaching experience. So what you're doing now, if you're retired, what you used to do. Okay. So let's start with you, Haley.
Hello, I am Haley Schultz, and
Nice and loud.
I am uh, faculty at UW-Madison, and this is a new position for me. I am trained as a licensed psychologist and primarily have worked in the medical field doing diagnostic evaluations, although my schooling is in school psychology. And so I've returned to my graduate program to be faculty there. So I am teaching master's and PhD level graduate students to become school psychologists as well as researchers in the field of school psychology.
Good evening. I'm Diane Schultz, Haley's mom. And I started my teaching career by doing substitute teaching because I graduated mid-year and there weren't a ton of jobs available. And I was also doing some special project work for the district. Then I taught English at Watertown High School for 31 years. The first 5 years was in the alternative program. I also directed theater at Watertown High School for 35 years in varying aspects. And this is my 4th year of retirement and I am substitute teaching again. So I have come full circle.
And I'm Hillary Lobenstein. I'm Barbara Phelps's daughter. I teach English at the high school, and I was neighbors with Diane for a number of years until her retirement. Let's see, what else do I do? Along with Jana Strobel, we run the Gosling Nest together, which helps some of our WHS students in need. And I also am the coach of the forensics team, so helping students gain a voice and to present themselves in front of others and gain confidence in doing so.
I'm Barbara Phelps, and I'm waiting to gain confidence. No, that was that's my humor. So currently, what I do, probably the teaching element of it, is that I would be teaching in a church or a Sunday school, and that's the background. God took me in a little different way. I am trained as a biology teacher, but also with my education came this caveat that said, you need to be prepared to teach in a situation where you're in a church teaching scripture and stuff like that. So my pleasure is to be able to do that.
I'm Linnea Nagel. I'm Sue's daughter, her youngest daughter. As far as education goes, she was a great guidance counselor and told me I could be anything I wanted to be except a teacher. So I went to school and got a degree, my master's degree in medicine, and was a physician assistant, and then ended up teaching at Marquette, and then being a director of clinical education, and then I was promoted to associate chair of the PA program. And then I recently, within the last 5 years, left that role, and now I own my own medical practice. So I guess I was like, Mom, I don't think I really teach anymore, but I'll be there. And she's like, Well, you still coach. That's teaching. So
Well, you do. I was a teacher for 32 years. I started in Manitowoc, and after 4 years, moved to Watertown and finished my career for 32 years. I taught home economics, or FACE, for 11 years, and then for 25 years, I was a school counselor. I had the privilege when I was a school counselor of serving on the state of Wisconsin's examining board for professional counselors, family therapists, and social workers, and that was a wonderful opportunity, kind of broadened my horizons there. And helping to coach the dance team has been another way for me to stay in touch with kids. I can't function without kids. So 3 years ago, my granddaughters needed a Sunday school teacher. So now I am a fifth and sixth grade Sunday school teacher and absolutely love it. I can't imagine not doing it.
she failed to mention that during COVID, she taught all four of our older children and created her own Nana school and had Nana books too. I'm Jana. I'm Jana Strobel. I am the eldest of Sue's two children. I teach right now at Watertown High School. I teach art. This is my 19th year doing so. My first career was as a graphic designer for 5 years, and then I went because, of course, Sue said, "Don't be a teacher," and I loved graphic design. I still do graphic design on the side. It's a passion of mine, and all of the things I learned from the public sector certainly helps point me in the right direction now that I'm teaching students. Um, I'm also a dance team coach. I am on the Wisconsin Art Education Association's board as their editor, thus the graphic design piece. And I'm the state chair for the visual art classic art competition team for high school students that my students will be competing in on April 4th. And I'm also co-chair of the Gosley Nest with Hillary.
Okay, thank you. No, you can keep them. That's fine. So I know a lot of you, or some of you, didn't go directly into teaching, but you maybe had a little bit different course. What I'd like to hear from the moms first. Why did you, excuse me, why did you become a teacher in the first place? What was that first little inspiration, that kernel that got you into teaching? So let's start with you first, Sue. Okay. I think mine started as a 4-H'er because I spent 18 years, more than that, but I spent a lot of years in 4-H and was a junior leader and loved that. And so I was encouraged to go to Stout. And so I went to Stout, studied home economics education, which was good, but I also took a minor in psychology and a specialization in family living, along with adult education. So that because I really enjoyed that piece and I really loved being with those kids. And so when I started teaching home ec, I did a lot of counseling on the side, really. And that was when I was in Watertown, and Roger Klein was our school psychologist. And he said, you're really good at this. I really think you should go to school. And I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't think so." But I thought, "Well, I'll take counseling women and girls at Whitewater. What could it hurt? And I won't mess any kids up then. That'll be good." So I went there and did that, and that was very successful too, and that professor kinda roped me into starting the program. And so I finished that, never intending to be a counselor. Karen and I were teaching together. We had a great time. I loved my kids. I was not interested in leaving at all. And they just called me and said, "You know what? You are going to be a school counselor next year." And I'm like, No, I didn't apply for that job. No." And they go, "Well, no, you are. That's what you're going to do. You will be assigned." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that first semester, I cried every night because I didn't have my own kids.
But by second semester, I had a line at the door. I was no longer lonely, and so it all worked out fine. But that's really it all started as a youth, helping other kids, and I just really enjoy being with young people.
Are there certain ages that you like to be with?
Yes. I spent 35 years with middle school kids, and I absolutely love that age group. And with the dance team, I've had to deal with little kids more, and that has really solidified all of the feelings I had when they said to me, "You have all the credits you need to be licensed K-12." And I went, "Yes, I want to be licensed 6-12." "No, no, you don't understand. You have all the coursework. You can be K-12." I said, "No, I want to be 6-12. I don't like puppets. I don't like I did not wanna be an elementary counselor at all, and even dealing with these little kids now, it's like, okay, I just have to pull out for all of you who have been an educator, my Heimgenot between parent and child, and trying to figure out how do you deal with these little people, and God bless elementary teachers. I think they deserve to be paid much more than they are because it's a real challenge, but middle school is definitely where it's at for me.
All of what she said is so true, and there are names that have been in my life that she, shared with us. I think that's a really important thing is when you work within a community the size as we have, a lot of those people come in and out of different people's lives. And I had the benefit of knowing a lot of those people, and that to me is so good. Middle school is the place where you go because they're slightly crazy and it's a fun group, and you just have to believe in yourself and say, "No kid's gonna get to me, but I am going to be the kindest person they ever met, and I can make a difference in their life." The real story about me, how I got into education, only child, um, I can still remember going to the Sun Mart on, Mount Vernon Avenue in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and we started looking at supplies, school supplies, and I really got into those red notebooks and the pens, and I didn't get a pen at first. I was pencils, and then I also had crayons. I didn't really make it up to the 64 pack. I was a 12 pack at that point. So those are the kind of things that, my relatives, were all interested people succeeding, and it was so easy. It was just something my dad was very supportive. I remember I needed a dictionary, and he went out and he bought an unabridged dictionary, and I have no idea I didn't bring it home, but my dad did. Think of how many words have been in those all those editions. In fact, I went to see what was the last edition, and there's a 3rd edition of the unabridged dictionary, so just information for you guys, so that's it.
When I was little, I always told everyone I was going to be a teacher, never get married, and have 2 dogs, and that was going to be my life. And, when I went to school, I just was such a theater lover that I decided to major in theater, and, came home from school one weekend and shared this with my father, who is honest, if not supportive, and he said at that time, "How are you gonna get a job doing that?" And so I decided to play it a little safer, and I added theater education with a minor in English. So even though most of my life I thought I was going to be a teacher, I sort of fell into it. Um, got my degree. No, I never did make it to Broadway, Dad. But I started teaching and absolutely loved it. Um, as Sue said, it's the kids. It was all about the kids. However, I always tell everybody I didn't even like my own kids when they were in middle school, let alone somebody else's. So high school was my gig, but um it was the best decision that ever just kind of happened to me because it was definitely where I was meant to be.
I think that's interesting that each of you have your own little niche that you like as far as ages of kids go. Because I kind of like with Diane too. It's like, give me the high schoolers, forget the rest of them. The rest of you all should be getting a lot more money. So I love that. So let's go back to the daughters now. So why did you become teachers, especially you all, when your mom said, don't be a teacher? So let's start with Haley. Um, this was, did you think about did you look at your mom and say, "I don't wanna do that," or, "Wow, she's working and she's great and the kids love her. I do wanna do that."
Well, to play off mom, when I was little, I wanted to be president of the United States, never get married, and have a house big enough where all 4 brothers would live in the basement. So teaching, I was told I was gonna be a teacher, but it was never a path for me. I knew early on that I was gonna work with students with disabilities, and that's where my career path always led me. Um, I love clinical work, and I still work part-time as a licensed psychologist, but if you can't work with kids if you don't understand schools. And so, I have always loved school. School was good to me. My identity has always been a student. I joke that my hobby has been going to school and collecting degrees, because I love it, and it was something that I was asked to do because of my clinical work, and so, my program invited me to be an adjunct lecturer for cognitive assessment. It's a area that I specialize in, and the first day I walked in the classroom, I knew this is where I needed to be. Um, I love working with people that I know are gonna support children. I don't think there's not enough qualified people out there, and I've been out there, and I wanna help people be trained to provide services for kids. And so it was something that I didn't think I was gonna do, but once I was in it, I was really motivated to find opportunities to stay in the classroom, and it all worked out really well for me.
Education was always incredibly valued at our house. I still have pictures of myself holding little flowers for my elementary school teacher to go hand to them. I'm certain we did that all the time, each year. I definitely grew up playing teacher with my sister. And, I too taught and do teach Sunday school. So that was probably where I got my start of teaching is after I got confirmed, mom said, "You're teaching Sunday school." And I still teach Sunday school, and now my son is teaching Sunday school, so we just keep going. But that was probably the start of teaching. I was also a camp counselor at YMCA Camp Minneconne, and that was another major portion of like why I went into education, just working with children. They listened to me a lot more when I was a camp counselor than as a teacher, I have to say. And then mom, of course, was always, involved in Christian education. And for a long time, she would, okay, how are you going to help us out? Are you directing the Christmas program? I was able to direct many Christmas programs for the kids. But then I finally sort of turned it around on her and I got her to be a mentor at our church. So I finally, got her to volunteer for us. But just, passage of time and the understanding of working with kids is just sort of a lifelong pursuit and understanding them. And every day you're going into the classroom and you still have something to learn. Every single day, you don't have it all figured out just yet. So
Thank you. My husband went to law school about a year after I got out of PA school, and I had enough medical education at that point to realize he had undiagnosed ADHD, and I could not turn the TV on at night. He could not read those case briefs if there was even a little bit of a distraction. So after I stared at a wall for a few weeks, I was like, I have got to get out of this house and do something. So I applied to be anatomy and physiology professor at MATC, and I did that at night to keep myself busy and away from him and distracting him. And then shortly after that, an opportunity came up at Marquette University, and my husband and I met there. We both had 2 degrees from there. I always told people, "If you cut me, I'm gonna bleed blue and gold." And so the opportunity to go back there in what I felt was a service capacity, because I think teaching is somewhat of a service, and to an institution that I really loved, I did that. But unfortunately, my mom also gifted me with an insane drive, and so once I was there, I was teaching and I was really liking it, and then it was like, "Oh, but there's this promotion," and so then I got that promotion, and then I don't know what happened, but 5 years later, I was the associate chair, and I absolutely hated it because I was down to having 1 class, and all I did was sit in meetings with adults who got nothing done, and agenda after agenda, and it just was not at all what I had signed up for. It's pretty hard to reverse when you're in academia, and so to say like, "Hey, can you just, like, demote me? Like, is that a thing?" So I ended up just deciding to leave and then open my own medical practice. So I do still miss teaching, but I just academia is just it's a there's kind of this trajectory that I think is inevitable, and it's hard to not be on it, and I just don't ever see myself wanting to be in that position again, so
In honor of the trajectory, I hope they never ask me to be an administrator. No, thank you. I will take my high school students any day. Oh my goodness. Linnea and I spent a lot of time behind the scenes in mom's classroom and in her office and in the guidance office, volunteering and helping out and doing all sorts of things, even when we were in middle school, delivering passes. So I think just getting to see the behind the scenes pieces of it, the dedication to students and understanding that it was so much emotional energy that went into it, and getting to see those aha moments or seeing the kids come out, being so joyful or being thankful. Um, getting a lot of the students we still call our siblings. We contend mom and dad had 13 siblings, not just the two of us. We tried to figure out what number we actually were. We're not one and two. I know that for sure. Um, and a lot of them still come home and still call us home. So that's really super cool. Um, and I have, you know, kind of created that also, and Linnea's created that as well with some of our students that we formally and informally adopt along the way. I think that's just, um, part of that piece of being a teacher. They kind of become your own children at some point. So just getting to see how that empathy piece of it played out made me realize that the world of graphic design was very cutthroat, and I'm not kind, and I'm definitely a more kind person. And I felt like I still could do what I loved if I was teaching art, and I had already been teaching little kids for lots of years. I taught in high school, I taught Sunday school, I taught dance. I was still coaching dance. I was coaching multiple teams of dance, which was crazy. And then I decided I would go back to college and get my master's degree in education. And so I did that at night while I was running a regular job during the day. And so I love it. I'm glad that I did it. Um, I do it for the kids, just like you would hear every other teacher say. You are certainly not doing it for the politics of education. And assuming the kids stay there, I think I probably will too.
Okay, thank you. Um, so I think the way that our communities and the world or the United States actually reacts to people who are teachers are different now than it maybe was when some of you started. So if you could maybe talk a little bit about what your experiences have been when you tell people that you're a teacher, or you used to be a teacher. How is that for the ones that are fairly new to it? How is that what are the reactions? And for those who have been here for a while, what was it like in the beginning as opposed to what is it like now? Does anybody have a profile?
I don't know if I'm profound or not, but in the 70s, if somebody asked me, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a teacher. They're like, oh, that is so cool. That is wonderful that you're helping those children. I'm like, yeah, I love them. It's good. Now, what I hear is, oh, so you like having summers off, huh? Yeah, you get paid and don't even work. Yeah, what a piece of cake that job is. And it's just the whole respect piece is gone. And it makes me so sad. And that's why I did not really encourage my daughters to become teachers because I really wanted them to feel respected. And I just felt like that was missing. And I still feel like when I look back at Watertown, even some of the administrators that I had, I was so lucky. I was so lucky to have a Randy Noiser who said to me all the time, Susan, there's this meeting for psychologists. I'm a counselor. I think you should go. It'll be good for you. You need to get out of here for a while. Okay. He provided all sorts of opportunities for me. When we had Dr. Hodder here, hey, they want me to be on the examining board, but I'm going to miss school. Oh, Watertown should be represented. You should do that. Well, the Career Information Board really would like me to come. You should do that too. That is good. That's what we want Watertown on the map. We want to make sure that we're getting all the information we can. Then along comes Kent Jacobson, who, he bent the rules a bit, but never for his own benefit. It was never to benefit him. It was always to benefit kids and it was always to benefit the teachers. He had everybody's back. And I learned a lot from that. I may have done a lot of work that I didn't think really I was qualified to do or needed to do, but he was a great administrator. From what I see right now, I don't see that. I don't see that our administrators are maybe allowed to do that kind of thing. But I think the climate has changed. Suddenly, education is the enemy. And how appropriate that we're having this meeting tonight and tomorrow the education department is going to be dismantled. I mean, really, that pretty much says it all. So I do think it's changed a lot, and it makes me very sad. And I tend to advocate for teachers any chance I get. If I can talk to somebody about how I think teachers are treated in schools, I'll do that. Sometimes I'm a little mouthy about the whole thing, and they probably wish I'd shut up. But it's true. Teachers deserve a lot more credit than they're getting.
Shanna, did you have anything to add to that being in the schools right now?
Well, I better be careful. I'd like to keep my job. I say for you? Yeah.
I write a lot of checks for things that the school will not pay for my sister students, and I think it is absolutely asinine. Absolutely asinine. Like, how are we having art kids who are succeeding and ending up at top in Wisconsin, and we cannot provide them a bus to get them to Madison? Like, we need to do better. Like, that's absolutely insane to me. And I don't understand teaching is hard enough. I do not understand why we are forcing these teachers to do it with an arm behind their back, back up against the wall. Like, it's out of control. And I mean, even my daughter, she loves teaching these little kids in dance, and I tell her every day, you don't love it enough to be a teacher. You don't, because it's the same problem. I mean, when I was in high school, I know nobody wants to talk about politics, but somebody was our governor. I think it rhymes with what? Gawker. And he was single-handedly dismantling the education system in Wisconsin. And my mom was watching it crumble and fall. And I mean, as much as she loved teaching, I have great respect for her that she drove me in a different direction because I think she saw the writing was on the wall, and I don't even think she could have imagined it would be as bad as it is today. And so I have deep respect for my sister who continues to do it, but at the same time, as her sister, like, it's infuriating to me that, like, this is what we have to do. I didn't have that challenge in academia. Like, if I needed money, they were providing me the money that I needed for my students. So the public school system is a mess. I mean, it really is.
Interesting. Um, I I agree with a lot of things that you said, but I think how we relate to other people, how we relate not just to teachers, but to others, instead of lifting people up. So often we want to denigrate them, we want to bring them down because we have a feeling that's the way we're going to, if we step on them, we're going to get better. We're going to be more important. That's not the way life is. And I really think that we have to spend a lot of time thinking about how, just as the group that is here, how we spend time in Watertown lifting up other people. And it is extremely important that we do something instead of just talking about it. What what could be the thing that we could do to lift up people? And whatever, wherever they are, I think that's a really important thing. All in all, it's about just making sure that people know how important they are, how loved they are, how cared for they are. And if we can go about doing that, whether it's just a kind statement to someone, I've taken on the role of when I go out to dinner, the person who is serving me is the center of my attention. And I want to tell them how important they are and how thankful I am to have them there. Whether it's a teacher, whether it's a waitress, whatever, you can do your thing to help someone be lifted. So
And I think that core idea of focusing on the goodness of students and trying to support them, that's like a guiding principle in my teaching every day. Just trying to, lift up a student, give them words of encouragement. Hey, I noticed that you're not looking so well today. Are you okay? Just that, are you okay, mom? But that kind of idea of just sort of noticing students and how they're doing. I would say two elements have changed recently. I feel as if I have to be incredibly careful politically, especially with the text that I teach because I'm an English teacher and I teach 11th grade English and AP language and then also American literature as well. Just trying to make it through without being demonized. I mean, that's scary now, I would say. So trying to, navigate the political world now. The other thing that has shifted since, and this is I think it's my 23rd year at Watertown. It's been a while. I didn't think I would stay this long. But here I am. I'm going to get that 25-year clock. It's a clock, right? I think it's going to passage of time. Click, tick, tick. Okay. But technology has changed so much with teaching. When I started, I would walk in with my book and I'd have some notes in my book, and maybe we'd talk about some passages and hear some questions. And now we've got, oh my goodness, we've got games to play. I just played a Look It with students today, and Google Classroom and everything is there. Now, when we taught through COVID, that was a huge shift. I also feel as if we are on at all times. We can be, students can reach us, and whether it's email or other ways, and I feel like that's something, okay, I can't just go home and be mom. No, no, no. There's a lot more to do at night and scoring papers and getting lessons ready, filled with fun technology for tomorrow. So, but yet at the core of what we do, it's making each child feel as if they're special to try to support them. So,
I'm not as kind as the Phelps women to my right. Um, Going back to the idea of respect, I totally concur with Sue um, that there was a time when not only were teachers respected for what they did, but teaching was considered a profession rather than a job. Um, and that greatly diminished. Without getting too political, the passage of Act 10 was destructive for teachers. All of a sudden, we did become the villains who got paid too much and worked too little. Um, and it was hard. And so much has been said, and I don't want to take too much time, but I do just want to add one thing that because the young people were hearing teachers denigrated in their homes, they would bring those ideas to the classroom. And then not only were mom and dad not being particularly open to your thoughts and ideas, but it was a whole different atmosphere in the classroom because it somehow was determined that educators were not to be valued, and that really had a huge carryover.
I was fortunate to grow up in a household where teaching was an honored profession. That was not even It was not even a debate. I had a strong, opinionated, successful mother, female, who there was no apologies for being a strong female. And so teaching to me has always been a thankless, amazing, challenging profession, and I saw my mom do it every single day. And so she's the person I respect most in this world because of what I saw her do in the classroom. And so I don't listen to other people's opinions very well and don't care what people think. And so fortunately, that has always been where my head is. And I am very protective of my mother's profession, and I am an advocate for my mother's profession. Um, and I'm struggling right now because my students come back from practicum saying, well, this is happening and what can we do? Or this student isn't receiving services, or this student is no longer coming to school, or this family doesn't feel comfortable at school. And I don't know how to answer those questions for them. And they are expecting me to know how to get through this really challenging time in our society, and I don't have the answers for them. And I've had conversations in my classroom about, I am experiencing this with you. I don't know how to coach you through this because I'm living this with you right now. And at the university level, we don't know if we can accept students next year. And so our direct funding for students comes from the federal government. And where are all our projects in diversity and equity? And what our faculty really focus on is bridging the homeschool partnership because we're trying to repair some of the damage, some of the misinformation about educators and education. And we're scared about what's going to happen if that work can't continue. Um, Madison is an ivory tower. Our Madison schools need help, and we're trying to give that help, and we're fearful of what will happen if that work stops.
Thank you very much. I think anybody that knows a teacher knows that they go above and beyond constantly to what the job description really is. I thought it would be interesting if you could give us an example of a time that you've done this. And I know there's probably a lot, and obviously no names, but a specific thing, because it sometimes our stories touch people more than just facts and numbers and things like that. And not only tell us about that experience, but why you do this when you're not required to do it. Haley, sorry to put you first, but
No. Um, so I think in general, boundaries are hard for me in work, mostly because my mom was a teacher and there was no clocking in or clocking out. And so it was very normal for my mom to be running to the store at 10 o'clock because she told her fifth hour class that they were getting treats the next day. Um, and so I feel like I have taken that, work ethic with me and find myself giving a lot and wanting to make sure that I'm preserving enough of myself so I can come back the next day. So what's a little unique to my position is I am supervising clinical work. And so I'm teaching people to be psychologists. And so I have a student right now who doesn't know how to work with kids. loves kids, wants to work with kids. And so we have spent weeks and weeks and hours of role playing and practicing because that little boy is coming in for services. And although this is a training clinic, this little boy has a real life, right? And he has real needs. And so I sit there with him day after day, coaching him, helping him, preparing him. Um, because for that little boy, this is his real life. And so I want to make sure our clinicians are ready to go before they have the privilege of working with students. And so I spent a lot of time revising late at night emails, just to make sure that those services are quality services. And so it's making my life very difficult right now, but the outcome is worth it.
The first thing, of course, as an English teacher that comes to mind, going above and beyond, is the unbelievable number of hours spent grading papers. Um, Haley will attest to the fact I have graded at family gatherings, on car rides, at sporting events, intermissions between in at concerts and plays. When the seniors used to graduate a week before the rest of the school got done, I would grade at graduation. But I have to share this one with you because this is just too good. I was in labor, in active labor with my first child. And for whatever reason, um, infinite wisdom, a nurse decided to put a phone call through to me. And it was one of my students. And she had just broken up with her boyfriend. And she was struggling. I was struggling. But she needed me at that particular moment in time. And so, between deep breaths and whatever else I was doing at the time, I guided her through this breakup and assured her that things were going to be okay and that maybe we could talk about it more another time.
Wow.
You can't top that one.
I can't. I cannot. I did deliver my daughter at 2:36 a.m. on Saturday, June 5th, 2010, and by the next morning I was grading papers at the hospital. It was the end of a semester and those papers had to get done, and I didn't write many comments. I remember that. I had a student just ask me about this today. Have you ever just given scores and just put a number on it? Oh, okay. Well, once that was it. It is the overwhelming amount of scoring and assessing and providing comments. It is not just a red mark on a paper with a numerical score, or you have an A minus. It is hours of expectations of grading and offering advice and giving them feedback, and that goes on. And now we also revise papers, so that's you don't just go through it once, you go through it multiple times, and then you sit down with students and you walk them through the process of it. So, and they're generally they're willing to learn and they're excited to revise, mainly because they get a better grade. But it's difficult. We just finished a trimester. I think I scored, and I have AP students, so we would write one essay per week. And I think I had around about 90 students or so. I think I scored 83 papers last Tuesday and Wednesday, something like that. It was crazy. And my mom kept texting me, Hillary, tell me what number you're on. 54, 39, 24. Stop calling me, Mom. So it's a lot of time spent offering feedback, but it's worth it.
I fell asleep that night going, oh, she fell asleep too. The other story that she told is a family secret. We would appreciate it if you did not share it with anyone else. No. One of the things that I was involved in, it was a young man who school wasn't exactly what he
hoped it would be, and he was about ready to graduate. And he had about 2 months before the end of what was going on. I wasn't even teaching. I was a friend of the family. I was on the school board, and there was a connect between all of those items. And this young man, we set out, and they trusted me enough, and the suggestions on what the grading would be and what he needed to do, and we followed through. And one of the most wonderful things is that when he walked across that stage, I was there to hand him his diploma. But better than that, and this is a close family friend, okay? When he turned 50, I handed him the picture and I said, "This is your gift." And he is very successful. It just didn't fit. That's the thing that I think is so important is not every child is mature enough at a certain level or whatever. He's successful. He has he takes care of his family, they take care of him, and it turned out to be just something that was very special. So, um, okay, there you go, lady.
I guess I would have to say being somebody's mom because when I was coaching, I had two boys. My second oldest son was a manager for the dance team. And he fell into it because of a friend and ended up helping at the big competition and that we hosted moving things, brute force at 8th grade level. And he came up to me and said, is there I can't dance. I cannot dance, but I really would like to be a part of this. It seems like you guys have, you're all pretty close and I don't really have anything like that. So is there something I could do? And I was like, well, you could be a manager, I guess. And so he ended up living with us, and long story short, he's my son now. And then my oldest son was on my dance team and was kicked out of his home for being gay. And so we also adopted him when he was in high school. And I feel very silly for sitting up here and saying it's something that I did for somebody else because my life is so fulfilled because of my two older boys. I love them to death. Been through a lot of hard things in my life, and I don't think I would have made it through them without their wisdom and strength that they've given me. But I guess I would be remiss if I didn't say that's probably the most. I don't know if you can get more influential than being somebody's mom. So that's probably what I would say.
I was really fortunate to have a lot of experiences with families. A lot of families shared a lot of their lives with me, which was really a privilege. One of the biggest privileges to me was to be with somebody who was passing. And I had a mom who came to register her son, and he was dyslexic. And so she's explaining all this dyslexic stuff to me, and she's going on about how she was a hippie and she did this, and she's really kind of out there. Um, and I'm listening and going, oh, okay, okay, yeah, uh-huh. And my door is open, and my secretary is out there on the end, and she keeps looking at me. I see her looking at me going, you know, and we finish, and this woman said, she looks at me and she goes, I just have to hug you. I know we're going to be best friends. And my secretary at that one, like that. And I'm like, oh, sure. Well, it wasn't maybe a year and a half later, and she is diagnosed with cervical cancer, stage 4. And she has done every alternative treatment under the sun to try and beat this, and it's not working. And so I remember visiting her at her house a couple times, and being the true hippie that she was, her mattress is on the floor and incense is burning. And she's drinking pickle juice and Mullen's ice cream because she needed the calories to stay ahead of the cancer, and she believed the pickle juice, the vinegar was going to help. It was better than nothing. And we're talking, she's telling me about crossing over dreams. She's telling me about a dream she had where children are playing and whatever. And so we're talking about a crossing over dream. And meanwhile, this is my 50th birthday. and I didn't know it, but I have kids that my dance team is at my house dancing around in the driveway wondering where I am, and Mark is like, "I have no clue. I'm guessing she's with somebody like that lady, I don't know," and I'm like, "Yeah, I was with that lady who had just a couple days to live," and she's like, "Sue, do you think you could hold my cigarette?" And I'm like, "Oh." I said, "This real," I said, "This is so bad for you." And I'm like, "But you're dying and this is what you like." I'm like, "Sure." She wasn't strong enough to hold her cigarette anymore. So I lit the cigarette. I've never smoked. I don't know anything about this, but I'm holding this cigarette for her as she's laying there. And we're talking about crossing over dreams. And she says, "Do you think I can go to heaven? Because I've done a lot of terrible things." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, have you asked God to forgive you?" And she said, "Oh, almost every night." I said, "Well, then we're having a party because you're going to heaven." I said, "By God's grace, you are saved, honey." And she's like, "I am?" I'm like, "Yes." And then I went home and it was like, what a gift. What a gift to be able to share. And how did she know we were going to be friends or that I would end up there? The most unlikely person for me to connect with. But it was just a privilege.
My story is interesting. Hillary and I shared lots of experiences with our students at the high school. I'm not even sure how many years it's been since we started the nest. Do you know? At least 10? I know I have it written down somewhere. I'm not sure where. But we were, kids would need something. They would need a deodorant or they would need who knows what, socks. And so we had a little closet that had those things that the two of us thought was such a great idea. And then eventually we discovered that there was more need than that. So we, kind of kept expanding. And the one that really got me was I had a young lady who was late to my class every single day. It was first hour. And finally I had the audacity to ask her why. Silly me. And it was because her mom was unable to put her little brother on the bus or put him in a taxi or whatever was necessary in the morning, and she had to do that. So she was the mom, and then she then had to get herself to school, usually by walking, and it was quite a distance. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm not going to mark you late. Let's just catch you up as soon as you could. Well, a couple weeks in, after building a good relationship with her, I discovered her crying outside my door right after first hour. And I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. What's going on now? I can't go. Well, I can't go where? I can't go to second hour. I'm getting an F. Okay, well, let's try to solve the problem. Why are we getting an F? It's gym class and I don't have any shoes and they won't let me participate in the shoes I have on, which was a good thing they didn't. And I was like, okay, well, how big are your feet? And she said, I don't know, 9.5. I thought, okay, well, I just bought these Nikes and they're hot pink. And I kind of have an affinity for hot pink, but okay, here, take my socks, take my shoes and go to gym. Great. Perfect. She stopped crying. She went to gym. I sent her with a note so she didn't get in trouble for being late. And she came back to me later that day and she goes, I'm going to give you your shoes back. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go home with no shoes on. And she's like, you can't do that. I said, well, I'm going to forget your gym shoes tomorrow. So you better keep them so that you don't get an F in gym anymore. And there went my brand new Nike Shox that I loved dearly. And I taught the rest of the day in socks. And because I had an extra pair, thank goodness. And then I went to dance practice and taught that in socks. And eventually I made it home and I had to explain to my husband how I had given away my Nike Shox. And he's like, you did what? And we always say that the Gosling nest is something that's really special that Hillary and I created that we feel so passionate about. But we always open our presentations about the Gosling nest saying something to the effect of, well, Jana decided to strangle the goose instead of, just lay the golden egg. And I think those are the kind of things that keep us going. All of us as teachers, right? I mean, it's those personal, emotional moments where you're like, okay, I can make a difference today. Like, that's not that hard. It's just a pair of shoes. So,
Well, thank you for sharing that. And The kids who you interact with are certainly lucky, fortunate, and privileged to have you in their lives. I know we wanted to wrap this up about 7:30 or so, but I have one more question for you all. If someone came to you and said, "I really think I want to be a teacher," what would you tell them? Not just do it or don't do it, but why it's a good idea or not a good idea.
Before I answer that question, I just wanted to say that the young lady that I helped, she is now a teacher as well. She graduated with high honors from college, and I helped her get through that, and now she's giving back. So I guess she heeded that wisdom, right? You see the power to change the future, and I think that perpetuates itself without a lot of effort. If you grew up in a house that valued education and valued love and valued people of all kinds, and you were open to hearing other people's ideas and suggestions and then taking all of that information and synthesizing it for yourself, then I think you were raised to be a teacher because um, I'm hoping that all of us as teachers are contributing to the future of our society here in Watertown. We're raising the next generation. We're literally doing a lot of things like parenting in our classrooms and teaching them life skills. It's not about content. It's about creating relationships and learning how to listen and coming up with your own ideas and being willing to fail. And all of those things are what makes teaching so great because we get to see those aha moments in those kids. And so if they were to say to me that's what they wanted to do, I would say, you can be anything you want to be. I truly believe that. And so if you wanna come be me, good. I wanted to retire early anyway.
Actually, I'm dealing with a senior right now who wants to be a teacher. And what I said to her is, she said, "It's a bad idea, isn't it?" I said, "No, I've seen you teach these little kids and you are really good at it." And I said, "If that's what you love to do, that's what you should do, but just keep your eyes wide open, and know that you may have to work hard to make a difference, but it's possible to do." And I think about all the rewards that I got from teaching, from the best friends I have now, who are all people I worked with, to all the kids I've got to know who still come back. There are a lot of rewards in teaching that have nothing to do with money. But just keep your eyes open. You have to understand that that's what you're signing up for.
I had the same conversation with her. Um, that particular student, I just said, like, "What would you have done if I took away dance from you in high school?" And she's like, "It would have been like you took away my air. It's everything I love to do." And I said, "Well, that's how you feel about teaching. Like, you have the opportunity to go do what you love, like, for the rest of your life." And she's like, "Yeah, but, the politics and the money." And I was like, "That stuff will figure itself out. You dance without people giving you accolades all the time. We don't always get the respect that we think we deserve or how hard we work. And that doesn't stop us, does it?" And she's like, "Well, no." And I was like, "This is no different." Like, and it's the same thing I think with medicine. Like, if you're called to take care of people, you absolutely should go do that because we need people like that in this world. So yeah.
I think um, if someone would come and ask what I thought, I would probably be very supportive of them. Not probably, would be. But I think it takes other steps. It's not just a verbal statement. It is at that point, um, depending on the relationship that you have with the individual, to the extent that you could help, um, to actually, you know, be that mentor to that young person or old person, whatever, whoever they are. If they seek help, then there is your opportunity to actually put into motion, possibly with your friends. There are so many different ways to be a mentor. And do that exactly. And, you know, do to the extent that you can, and then seek other help from other individuals. It is so important. It's just like you don't stop at, well, you want to be a teacher? Of course you could be a teacher. You take that on and you figure out how you can help with the answers. So,
My daughter, Audra, has already spoken about becoming a teacher, which I could see her following through with. My son does not want to follow in those footsteps. No, mom, I'm not doing that. So, having some long conversations with Audra about what is the reality of teaching, how it's changed. But I do think, along with those small little moments that you get with those students, you also get a lot of humor. I mean, we have laughed so hard. I don't Okay, Diane was my neighbor at school, I think I already said that, and all of the "You've gotta hear what happened today." I think it was in one of the last years that you were teaching, and I remember I was carrying a podium down the hallway. Why was this funny? I don't know, and the podium fully came out, and I dropped it, and it was just the funniest, craziest thing that happened. It was just chaos upon chaos. Like, that's what teaching is some days. And I think it's living in that chaos and knowing, you might be the bright shining spot of someone's day and fill it with laughter. And so that's the joy of teaching.
I think while I was being Barb Phelps and Linnea Nagel, and I was saying, "You should do anything you wanna do," they would be reading my facial expression going, "Oh god, no." Um, of course, I would support anyone in a career decision or a life decision, um, but Sue said something about keeping your eyes wide open. I think I would also encourage someone to keep their options wide open because I don't know that as many educators today stay in it for 31, 35, 40 years. And I think it's important to know that that burnout or that disillusionment might happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but it might happen. And I think it's important to have a plan B at this point where we didn't necessarily feel that same need. And also I just want to add one more thing quickly. I have to remember that I'm looking from a 66-year-old woman's perspective. I always told people the reason I'm retiring is because I have too much of the old in here to adapt to the new. And people coming right out of college, they don't know anything else. So they're not facing that constant push and pull struggle. And so for someone going into education now, they wouldn't have the same preconceived notions that I thought I had. And so it hopefully would be a wonderful experience for them.
In my experience, people don't go into helping professions because they think that's the easy route. And so I've worked as a counselor, I've worked as a psychologist. Now I have the opportunity to be a teacher, and every person that I've worked with in these settings are not in it for their own success, right? They're in it because it's what they love to do. And I think nurturing people who care about people is a big deal, and there's not enough people. So if you are coming up to me to say, "I wanna be a teacher," there's something special about you, and I would thank them. Thank you for wanting to be a teacher. Um, I don't see I mean, people would tell me, "Oh, you've made it now." And I'm like, "No one gets it doesn't matter how much schooling I have. No one's getting paid good to do any of this work, right?" And in fact, I took a pay cut to come back to teach. And so being around lots of people in medical, in university settings, public schools, they're there because that's the kind of people they are. And I am all for getting those type of people in the field. There's a massive shortage. And you can't really make being a teacher, like, fun and shiny. I mean, it's hard. It's hard work, and the pay's not great, and there's a lack of resources, and so I'm gonna at least try to nurture that passion. Most about half of the students that sit in my classroom right now were teachers. And so, I think it's incredible that they burned out, and now they're still trying to figure out, how do I stay connected to this school? And so I think there is something special about people who wanna be teachers, and people aren't just gonna say, "Oh, I couldn't find a major. I guess I'll just be a teacher."
Oh, thank you so much, ladies. That was wonderful. We really appreciate you sharing that with us. And thank you all for being here. And for those who are watching, thank you for watching this. And please share it with your friends. Just a couple of little things as the AAUW, we wanted you to let you know that here on April 24th, we're going to have a presentation. It's going to be called Other Countries Have Social Safety Nets. The US has women. And so this is a professor, and she is a professor of sociology at UW-Madison. It's a Badger Talk presentation. PBS Wisconsin will actually be here to tape it. So we'd love you to come, make a good showing for Watertown. Again, that's the 24th. And then every year, AAUW does a Woman of Merit Award and also provides scholarships for some of the students in the area. And that presentation will be May 15th, and that's going to be at the Watertown Elks Club. So we would absolutely love you to attend. You don't have to be getting anything from it, but just come in and enjoy yourself. And if you're interested in the AAUW, let me know, let us know, and we'll be happy to tell you about it. So thank you.